Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Wednesday, March 10th. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. A historic bill bringing help to the nation with a final party line vote by the Democratic-controlled House. A $1.9 trillion COVID relief bill is one step closer to bringing aid to Americans. Karen Caifa is in Washington with a look at what happens next.
President Biden's massive $1.9 trillion COVID relief bill clearing its final hurdle on Capitol Hill.
On this vote, the yeas are 220, the nays are 211. The motion is adopted.
The House with the final sign-off on Senate changes to the bill, including narrowing eligibility for stimulus checks and taking out the House-approved federal minimum wage increase. Democrats describing this not as a win for President Biden, but for millions of Americans.
This is a momentous day in the history of our country because we have passed historic, consequential, and transformative legislation.
The bill to provide, among other things, direct payments of up to $1,400 per person to families earning less than $160,000 a year and individuals less than $80,000. A $300 weekly federal boost to unemployment benefits through September 6th. $15 billion for long-term, low-interest loans for small businesses, and funding to chart the next, somewhat thornier phases of the pandemic, like vaccine distribution and school reopenings.
This bill represents a historic victory for the American people. I look forward to signing it later this week. Everything in the American Rescue Plan addresses a real need.
Despite the bill's popularity in polls, not a single Republican in the Senate or the House voted in favor.
It showers money on special interests, but spends less than 9% on actually defeating the virus.
In Washington, Karen Caifa, KPBS News.
President Biden is set to make his first primetime address tomorrow to mark 1 year of the pandemic. We will carry it live at 5 p.m. right here on KPBS, and that's followed by Evening Edition at 5:30 p.m. on our secondary channel, that's KPBS 2. This week marks 1 year since the first COVID-19 case in San Diego County, and the light at the end of the tunnel is getting brighter. Today, 349 new cases were reported, in line with the downward trend we've been seeing. With the state updating tier guidelines, we could see restrictions on businesses loosening sooner than we thought. Here's KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman.
Of course, we need more vaccines. We're working on that.
Even with the arrival of the new single-dose Johnson & Johnson vaccine, supply issues are still slowing and in some cases pausing vaccinations.
We are very hopeful. I've seen the president say multiple times that by May, every adult who wants a vaccine will have access to it. That's great. We're in March, so we need that to start trickling down here to the county so we can start getting them in arms.
Starting next Monday, vaccinations become available for those 16 to 64 with underlying medical conditions. Officials say first appointments may be hard to find, and people will need to bring with them documentation showing their medical condition.
Includes cancer, chronic kidney disease, chronic pulmonary disease, sickle cell, obesity, Down syndrome.
As COVID-19 related hospitalizations and intensive care unit admissions fall, officials are also announcing the winding down of a 200-bed federal field hospital set up in Escondido.
The equipment and beds will remain in storage in San Diego County. The staff will be dispersed to other sites in the event they are needed.
Soon, businesses like restaurants and gyms could be welcoming guests back indoors at a limited capacity. We're still in the state's most restrictive purple reopening tier, but with vaccinations picking up statewide, plus lower transmission rates here, we could hit the state's less restrictive red tier as early as next week.
We obviously have to wait and see what our numbers are next Tuesday. but we feel confident that that will happen.
Get a free vaccine to protect you and your family from COVID-19.
County officials are launching a new media campaign in English and Spanish that aims to boost vaccination rates.
We know that in certain communities there is going to be a little hesitancy.
Right now, nearly a quarter of San Diegans over 16 years old have gotten at least one dose, while around 13% of county residents are fully vaccinated. With delays piling up, officials are saying it's okay if second dose appointments are pushed beyond the recommended 6-week window.
Folks having to delay past 42 days, that is okay. You should still try to get the shot as early as you can, and you don't need to repeat a first dose.
Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
We're tracking the latest developments at kpbs.org. Just go to our homepage and then click on the Vaccines tab to find clinic locations, as well as links to make an appointment. Some North County school districts are taking the state to court for the right to reopen. KPBS North County reporter Tanya Thorne explains what's at stake.
It's close to a year since many students have seen the inside of a classroom due to the pandemic. Scott Davison with the Carlsbad Parents Association says he began hearing from other parents that the school closures are taking a toll on the students.
That their kids, were starting to break down, that, a lot of them that, we felt like they were just lonely or bored or quiet. We're really having, some serious, mental health issues, and we're acting out, and we're, engaging in self-harm.
Now, some North County parents and school districts are taking legal action after the state said no to their reopening plans.
They had plans, they had dates, they were ready to go, and then the state decided to step in for some arbitrary reason and shut everybody down. And so that's really then our lawsuit, was redirected at the state, and that's where it is right now.
The lawsuit was filed by 6 North County districts: Carlsbad, San Diego, Poway, Oceanside, San Marcos, and Vista. It asked the judge to prevent the state from enforcing 2 things.
A mandate of, 4 feet, that, we understand the health regulations and the mitigation measures should all be put into place in a balance, and that in some cases, if you can't achieve 4 feet, you implement other mitigation measures. And then the second issue is this issue of, or this rule of stable groups, that, in a middle school and a high school, that somehow we're supposed to keep the students in one classroom all day long, which is just, completely impossible.
The case was supposed to be heard Wednesday morning, but got delayed until Monday to give the state time to respond. Davison says that if the judge rules in their favor, some of the school districts involved could reopen the very next day. Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
The San Diego Unified School Board unanimously voted to change the name of one of its schools. The Tuesday night vote to change Junipero Serra High School came after students petitioned its change, citing California's mission system as offensive to indigenous people. The new name of the school is Canyon Hills High School, and the mascot has also changed from a conquistador to a rattlesnake, or rattler. Local indigenous leaders applauded the change, saying it will bring much-needed healing to the Kumeyaay and other First Peoples. A spokesperson for the Catholic Diocese of San Diego responded by saying it's up to the school board to decide on school names, and the mission era remains an important part of California's history. The pandemic, the loss of lives, and how to move forward. The key topics in Governor Newsom's annual State of the State address last night.
54,395 Californians we now mourn with broken hearts. That's almost the exact same number of empty seats behind me, marking a silent tribute to loved ones who live forever in our memories.
Newsom spoke from an empty Dodger Stadium surrounded by 56,000 seats, representing roughly the number of people who have died during the pandemic. He said his public health decisions, including the nation's first statewide shutdown order, had saved lives, but he acknowledged mistakes were made, though he did not articulate them. The governor will likely face a recall election later this year.
So to the California critics out there who are promoting partisan political power grabs with outdated prejudices and rejecting everything that makes California truly great, we say this: we will not be distracted from getting shots in arms and our economy booming again. This is a fight for California's future.
Former San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer and local businessman John Cox are campaigning to replace Newsom. San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria announced a new coordinated effort to help San Diego's homeless. KPBS reporter Max Rivlin-Nadler tells us this begins with an approach that no longer centers on law enforcement.
For years, San Diego has relied on different service providers to reach out to its homeless population, some focusing on veterans, others on youth, and others on seniors. Now, San Diego will move to coordinate all its efforts through the People Assisting the Homeless, or PATH program, sending out a coordinated team of caseworkers assigned to different neighborhoods to build rapport and trust with the homeless community, and empowered with the ability to connect the homeless with the help they need that day.
With this new coordinated outreach program, we're acknowledging that we need to provide a whole toolbox of options to the people who interact with our homeless.
The new PATH outreach teams, made possible by City Council funds allocated last summer, will send 12 outreach specialists into communities across the city to provide both help to those living on the street long term and those newly experiencing a crisis.
They will help them overcome the challenges, the unique challenges, whether it's drug or alcohol addiction, mental illness, physical health problems, or other legal entanglements. We call it person-centered, neighborhood-based, trauma-informed, housing-focused approach.
The mayor says that it's not all just jargon. It's a substantial change in how the city has been dealing with a crisis that city-led programs have not been able to alleviate for over a decade. Instead of ticketing, enforcement, and homeless sweeps, Gloria says the city will now lead with a housing-first model that has worked in other cities across the world, connecting people with immediate services.
We do not believe that people don't want services and choose to be homeless. We just need to figure out the right approach.
The city is in the middle of a 3-year action plan for homelessness, which aims to end all youth homelessness, all veteran homelessness, and to cut the rest of the city's unsheltered population in half within 3 years. Max Rivlin-Nadler, KPBS News.
San Diego County supervisors have ordered an independent review of their COVID-19 hotel sheltering program after reports of mismanagement. iNewsSource investigative reporter Cody Delaney explains.
The order came 8 days after iNewsSource exposed poor care and a lack of oversight at the Crowne Plaza Hotel in Mission Valley. The county has been using hotels since last year to isolate people from COVID-19. Hotel guests and employees said medication is delayed, staff aren't trained to deal with mental health issues, and security guards harass people. The county has a $30 million contract with Equus Workforce Solutions to run the program. Details about who would conduct the review and how much it would cost have not yet been made public. For KPBS, I'm iNewsSource investigative reporter Cody Delaney.
iNewsSource is an independently funded nonprofit partner of KPBS. Nursing homes in California began reopening this week to in-room visits, but with restrictions. KPBS's Amita Sharma says the reopening comes 1 year after the state locked down 1,200 nursing homes that were housing 100,000 seniors to shield them from COVID-19.
The California Department of Public Health now says fully vaccinated residents in purple-tier counties like San Diego can visit with loved ones in their rooms if the visitors tested negative for COVID-19 2 days prior. Fully vaccinated visitors can now hug, hold hands, and help with feeding and grooming of fully vaccinated residents. In a letter to nursing homes, state health officials acknowledged the impacts of the 1-year lockdown, writing, quote, residents may feel socially isolated, leading to increased risk for functional decline, depression, anxiety, and other expressions of distress. Mike Dark, lawyer for California Advocates for Nursing Home Reform, called the state's new visitation rules a milestone. But he said requiring visitors to test negative within 2 days of seeing a resident is challenging.
What's kind of frustrating about that is it means that if you want to see a resident every day in a facility, you effectively are going to have to get tested every day. Which is a lot of testing, and it's not necessarily testing that's going to be provided by the facilities.
The restrictions will loosen when San Diego drops into a lower tier for COVID-19. Amita Sharma, KPBS News.
Several schools in our mountain areas had to turn to distance learning today because of snowfall and travel concerns. A cold winter storm will be hanging the next few days, bringing much needed rain and snowfall at lower elevations. If you're heading to the hills, bring chains and watch out for flooding in low-lying areas. Here's meteorologist Mark Mancuso with a look at what's ahead.
A slow-moving, cold Pacific storm with us the next couple of days, so it'll be cooler with periods of showers, some isolated thunderstorms, and there'll be snow in the mountains, and that could be a problem for travelers with low snow levels. But this storm will bring us some beneficial rainfall. We'll be looking at close to an inch here in San Diego, and maybe a couple of inches in the mountains where it's raining. In the higher terrain, up above 3,500 feet, and we'll be looking at snow. Winter storm warnings continue right through Thursday evening. There'll be troubles at the passes. Look at some of our snowfall amounts, 10 to 15 inches in some of our heavier pockets of snow. Here's a check on our warnings. We have wind advisories through this evening, and we also have those winter storm warnings, which I told you about. Here's a look at our temperatures tonight. It is cool. Look at Mount Laguna down to 27, and we'll have showers and some mountain snow. There could be the occasional rumble of thunder, so you can see the waves of showers coming through here during the overnight hours. A cool day will be with us for tomorrow. Temperatures here mostly in the 50s, getting up in the mountains, we're in the low 30s. Showers and thunderstorms around. And on our future radar, well, we can see some showers and perhaps there'll be some thunderstorms. And in the mountains, you'll see the blue. That represents the snow. And the cold storm right over us on Friday. A couple of leftover showers the morning hours at the coast, but in the mountains, still a shower or two, maybe the stray rumble of thunder with the cold air aloft. Then finally the storm's out of here on Saturday. So here's our forecast, cool and wet, but it looks like some drier conditions coming into the beginning of the weekend. Inland sections, showers, storms, cool temperatures, a little bit milder into Sunday. And here in the mountains, it's cold as the snow winds down. Some sunshine, mid-40s on Sunday. And as we take you over to the deserts, it'll be pretty cool here, but some warming showing up for the weekend. And for KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Mark Mancuso.
The first class of female Marine recruits on the West Coast is under isolation after one recruit was exposed to the coronavirus. But as KPBS military reporter Steve Walsh shows us, their training continues.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The first female platoon of Marine recruits at San Diego is isolated for 2 weeks after one recruit tested positive Sunday for COVID-19. Says their commander, Captain Ashley Sands.
It doesn't really change our training. They're still required to do all the same graduation requirements, like swim qual, for instance, this week. Doesn't really have any major effect on our training. They're just required to stay in the squad bay whenever they're not conducting a physical training event.
This first class of women is essentially a test of how the Marines will integrate men and women at boot camp, as the last service to segregate women during their initial training. For now, they will have to limit training with other units.
It's not disappointing, I guess. We're used to things like this happening where the recruits occasionally will test positive for COVID, and we're required to just adjust fire and make sure that we conduct all the training necessary for them.
In the years since the pandemic began, the Marines added 2 weeks of isolation before the start of boot camp in an attempt to create a COVID-free bubble around the recruits. Still, this is not the first case of COVID among West Coast recruits. At the moment, recruits aren't receiving the vaccine. Tuesday, the recruits of Lima Company navigated the confidence course and pool exercises. Female Marines and veterans around the country are watching this first test of female recruit training in San Diego. Leah Booth is now a pastor in La Jolla. She went to the segregated boot camp in South Carolina in 2004 before serving 2 tours in Iraq as a crew chief on a helicopter.
I'm going to have to rely on these guys out in the field. Why would you separate us in training? You know? So I hope that they integrate sooner rather than later, honestly.
Lima Company is in week 4 of the 13-week boot camp. Soon, their training moves north to nearby Camp Pendleton as they move closer to becoming U.S. Marines.
Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
Poway Unified School District is scrapping plans to lease Costco land that it owns. Last month, our partners at iNewsSource reported Poway residents were suing the district to stop a Costco from being built. They claimed Costco's offer undervalued the land and that the district had violated several laws during its negotiations. Now, school officials say they'll gather more public input before presenting new recommendations about the property to the board. One California university is hoping to stop the coronavirus from spreading over spring break by paying students to stay home. UC Davis says it will give out $75 gift cards to the first 750 students who choose a staycation. To make sure they actually do stay put, though, students have to pick up the gift card in person when the break starts, and they'll also have to take a COVID test during the week. The university says it hopes the grant money will be spent to support businesses in their area.
Better than nothing, and I think it helps people maybe on the fence of staying or not staying. It's pretty easy money, you know?
California is asking residents not to travel unless essential. UC Davis is scheduled to take its spring break the week of March 22nd. The San Diego Latino Film Festival kicks off tomorrow at the South Bay Drive-In and then movies mostly online for the next 11 days. KPBS arts reporter Beth Accomando previews the festival with event organizers.
The San Diego Latino Film Festival has not been able to hold an in-person event for 2 years. But at least this year, the festival will have both virtual screenings and some outdoor gatherings, says founder and director Ethan Bontillo.
Yeah, lucky us, we have beautiful weather here in San Diego, and we have these wonderful drive-in experiences that already exist. And so our opening night, March 11th, is going to be at the South Bay Drive-In. We're so excited to see the movies on the big screen.
Action! Tomorrow night's Fronteras program will highlight local filmmakers.
So yeah, I just imagine if you're a local filmmaker and to go out to the drive-in and see your movie on the big screen. I'm really excited about that. To me, that's fantastic, and it goes back to the, why we created the organization in the beginning, right? Is to support local filmmakers, to support young Latino filmmakers in particular, and so to see their movies on the big screen is going to be fantastic.
The majority of films, however, will only be online. Exhibitions manager Moises Esparza says it'll be a diverse showcase.
We try to program with different themes in mind. So there's films about the immigrant experience, there's films about the LGBTQ experience, really just trying to champion as many different perspectives on what it means to be Latinx.
One theme that emerged as he was screening films was about the lingering effects of colonialism. The film 499 by Rodrigo Reyes shatters expectations about what a documentary can be by starting with a conquistador landing on the shores of modern Mexico.
And this one is really form-breaking and astonishing in the way it tells its story. And it explores the idea that colonialism has directly affected the violence in Mexico that's occurring in modern times. So through this kind of like travelogue that this conquistador is embarking upon, you learn about the effects of what these conquistadors did to Mexican society.
The film Blanco on Blanco tackles similar themes, but from a radically different approach.
What's really striking about this film is how it portrays how history is captured and how the way that history is captured is the way we interpret it as actually happening. I would say that Blanco on Blanco is one of the more provocative offerings the festival has to offer, but I encourage audience members to take a chance on it, because the reason to attend a festival in person or virtually is to watch films you would not typically watch, and to watch challenging films and subject matters that are sensitive. And it's part of the festival experience to expand horizons, to become a more learned film goer. So Blanco on Blanco definitely gives audience members the opportunity to kind of embark on a truly film festival-esque journey, I would say.
Part of that festival experience is the online post-film discussions that allow you to ask questions of filmmakers.
I do believe one positive thing this past year is learning how to have these live streams, this communication, the dialogues, because again, it's not the same thing, but you still feel that sense of connection with the filmmakers, which I think they so badly need it too. They want to see their work out there and they want to discuss their films. So I think we had close to 70 hours of live stream Q&As this past festival. So after the movies, I encourage everyone. It's nightly. There's going to be 2 to 3 Q&As every night. So please enjoy those Q&As. Get onto YouTube, Facebook, and check out the Q&As with the filmmakers. It's pretty fascinating.
So whether you want to expand your horizons or enjoy something familiar, the 28th Annual San Diego Latino Film Festival has something for you. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
March 19th marks 1 year since Californians were ordered to stay at home to combat the spread of COVID-19. In our series, Pandemic Life 1 Year On, KPBS takes a look at the impact of the virus on our communities and where we go from here. Our week-long coverage begins on Monday, March 15th on KPBS Radio, TV, and kpbs.org. It's just what the doctor ordered. A grandma in New York was given a prescription, and the prescription was to hug her granddaughter after getting the second COVID-19 vaccine, and the tender moment was captured on video. Take a look. And the doctor made the prescription for Evelyn Shaw reading, and it, quote, "You are allowed to hug your granddaughter." It was Shaw's first hug in an entire year. The granddaughter said she arranged the whole thing with the doctor, even sealing the prescription in an envelope to make it official. So sweet. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley. And by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.